All right, Gearheads, welcome to the show. This is our post-qualifying show for the Italian Grand Prix in Formula One. This is John Massengale, and I'm joined by Bob Varsha and Jonathan Green. Gentlemen, we have an Italian on pole at Monza. How much better does it get?
Wait, we have an Italian car. We have a Spanish driver.
Yes, thank you. Yes,
ahead of yourself there, buddy.
Team. We have a Ferrari. We have the Ferrari on
no
pole.
Tricolore yet.
Jonathan, where did we get this guy? What's going on?
I don't know. Who's replaced John Massengale?
Yeah, exactly.
The crowd looks ecstatic, don't they?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Couple things. One is I'm wearing my flowered shirt in honor of Jimmy Buffett today. And I don't know if anybody else was with me, but the first time I saw the Monza track in Friday practice, I thought, what happened to all the trees?
Yeah.
Where did all the trees go? The forests of Monza were so much a part of its personality, and apparently they all got blown down in heavy storms in July. And
10,000 trees, yeah.
Yeah. They'll replace them with, well, it's neither here nor there. I mean, it's what's about going on the racetrack. And if qualifying was any measure, this ought to be interesting, watching Ferrari try to mix it up with Red Bull.
I can't tell you, John. I've been to Monza many, many, many times. And, we used to joke that Ferrari would turn the wick up because it was Monza, and they kind of do. Or we'd say that the fans gave them an extra 10th, which they kind of do. But to see it play out in the hands of Carlos Sainz, his first pole of the year, to do it by 1,000th of a second and to have both of them up there, that's exactly what Ferrari and the new Frederic Vasseur needed. And Monza is such a turning point in any season for Ferrari. Get out of Monza with a clean podium of some sort, and the day is the day of Ferrari is saved.
Right, you buy yourself some time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there'll be nobody heads chopped off at this point for that.
Are we all romantic enough to think that this could be the day that Ferrari gets the upper hand on Red Bull and breaks their streak of consecutive victories, and on and on and on and on?
Yes, we could. Let's do that.
Yeah, why not? What there was the thing? I think Sainz said afterwards, "Dreaming is free."
Yeah.
Well, we may need to wait a little bit, guys, because we still have to wait for the stewards to talk about the minimum lap time. And
that's right.
Ferrari's, under investigation, I guess they call it in this instance. So
I thought they put out no further action.
I didn't see that, but I hope you're right. I mean, do they dare? The stewards won't be able to get out of the racetrack if they do Ferrari.
No kidding.
Yeah, let's see.
But I'm glad you called it minimum lap time, because the everybody else keeps calling it the maximum lap time.
Oh,
what? It's the minimum time. If you go any slower than 101 seconds, that's too slow.
It's confirmed, Jonathan. You're right. No further action.
I don't know if you saw Formula 2, but it's a good way of avoiding that because it was a farce.
Oh yeah. Well, you all remember 2019, where about 6 cars weren't able to start their final blast in qualifying because they all, milled around. Oh, no, you go first. I want the toe from you, yada, yada, yada. And they didn't get to the finish line in time.
Yeah. Not
crazy.
It is confirmed, by the way. No further action.
Good.
Yay.
Yeah, I thought it came up. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, great qualifying session, perfect conditions. The Williams, I kind of thought we were overhyping it. I say we. I felt the pundits were kind of going, "Oh, it's going to be a Williams day. It's going to be a Williams day," and it kind of turned out to be just that in terms of Albon, anyway. But I do feel for Sargent. We've got to talk about the elephant in the room. The mistake again at Parabolica. I'm all for the guy. I like him. I just worry now that with Albon going as well. I mean, Albon's flying, and this is a circuit, a non-downforce circuit where Williams, can do something.
Yeah. And this is kind of Sargent's last mulligan, if you will, because from here on out, he's going to tracks that he doesn't know. At least at Monza, he'd been with F2. Not, Singapore and Suzuka and all the other places he'll be going from here. It's going to be a lot tougher because he's going to have to learn the racetrack.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to have to go right around the world in Japan and Singapore, and then come into the maelstrom of Austin in October. That's
Right.
not going to be easy because he's going to be under massive pressure by then, and it could be showing by the time he gets here.
Well,
Yeah,
he's not the only guy disappointed by this session. I mean, poor Lance Stroll, 20th.
Yeah.
K-Mag, 19th.
Hamilton, not great.
Hamilton, not great, no.
Yeah, I have no idea what happened with Stroll. I have not heard anything yet. That just doesn't make any sense, does it?
Well, he missed a lot of Q3.
Yeah, he got no running at all, essentially, on
Yeah.
Friday. So he had one session this morning for an hour. And, you know, his
But
teammate,
still.
it must be said, Alonso, 10th. Remember, he's the only guy who's made it to Q3 every race this year. Well, he did it by the skin of his teeth this time at Monza.
But still, I still feel like that, you know, it doesn't. I know Lance Stroll didn't have the time in the car, and Alonso only 10th, but the back of the pack here, that just seems, you know, pretty disappointing and you know, unusual for Stroll to be that far back in that car.
True. I have to say, just a quick word on Perez. 0.3 off Verstappen. That's more like it.
Yeah. Yeah, good point.
Yeah,
and well done again
him.
to McLaren. Consistency. If there's a consistent team out there, it's McLaren. Look, both cars where they need to be.
Yeah.
You know, Albon
doing a good job again.
Albon looking so good, but I don't know if you guys saw before the race, James Vowles said it. He said, you know, basically we expect to be in Q3 today. And, you know, he said about Logan Sargent, he's had the pace, he's had the speed, he just needs clean laps. Well, he got the clean laps today.
I know.
It is disappointing.
Well, yes and no. This is such a weird track. It's such a one-off. It's wide, it's fast, there aren't a lot of corners, and yet traffic becomes the issue because aerodynamic help is so important, and maintaining speed into corners is so important. And with traffic everywhere, all you got to do is come across one car going slowly that causes you to lift, even for a moment, or put one wheel off, as we even saw Verstappen do.
Yeah.
Yeah, your lap is blown because it is flat out everywhere, and any interruption to that progress in a lap is going to cost you dearly.
What do we think to the alternate tire allocation?
I don't have any problem with it. I know Mario Isola was among the team principals in yesterday afternoon's interviews, and he said that Pirelli likes what they're seeing. Apparently Formula One likes what they're seeing. 2 fewer sets of tires, designated tire for each round of qualifying. I'm okay with it.
All right, guys, let's get in a quick break. And when we come back, we'll continue to talk about the Formula One Italian Grand Prix, and hopefully we'll get Chris Medland pretty soon here live from Monza. You listen to the Speed City. Back after these messages.
We haven't mentioned really the biggest story of the day.
All right. What's that, Jonathan?
Alpine.
Ooh, yeah.
17th and 18th. Disaster.
Yep. Hey, some good comments on YouTube. Joe Voicer Bay said, rookies don't get much room to grow. You have to deliver almost immediately. Yeah, because David Lawrence said rookie bar has been moved up so high over the years. It's sad. Very true.
Yeah, when you think of drivers like Mika Hakkinen, Nigel Mansell, world champions both. I think Hakkinen went 99 or 100 races before he scored a victory.
Yeah, Coulthard, remember, thrown in the deep end at Williams.
Yeah.
But got, you know, and everybody said, oh, well, give him time. He was thrown in round 4 and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah. Same to an extent with Damon Hill.
Yes. Yeah.
Replacing, you know, when Senna was killed.
Yep.
So what's going on out there in YouTube land?
Let's see what else. Andy P says not a fan of the ATA. Might as well get rid of practice sessions. Makes them very tough to get any sort of an order.
What does he mean by that? An order. I mean, you have the tires you have. You adapt to using them as you need to.
True.
What were you going to say, Jonathan?
Well, just the word tinker comes to mind again. I just, I'm not a big, why? I just
save
is
4,000
it broken?
tires a year.
Is it? Well, yeah, but we've had that discussion. That's easy.
Mm-hmm.
Hello to everyone, this is Gunther Steiner, this is Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
CrowdStrike presents Driven in 60 as the official cybersecurity partner of the Mercedes-AMG Petronas Formula One team. CrowdStrike protects against cyber threats so the team can focus on what matters, their next win. The revolutionary cloud-native unified CrowdStrike Falcon platform harnesses the speed and power of the cloud to protect and defend organizations of all sizes against increasingly complex threats, stopping breaches before they happen. Because on and off the track, the stakes couldn't be higher. A split second can make the difference between victory and defeat. When every second counts, protection shouldn't slow you down. It should fuel your momentum. CrowdStrike, protection at every turn. To learn more and to try CrowdStrike Falcon free today, visit crowdstrike.com/XM. Jonathan, you were saying during the break that we hadn't really talked about Alpine. Yeah, big story there, right?
Total disaster, yeah. I mean, from the highs of Gasly last weekend to the lows of 17th and 18th of both of them. That's not how qualifying should go, especially given that they were reputed to have great straight line speed. So for whatever reason, Monza's not suiting them, or they just didn't get it right.
Well, this is such a power-hungry circuit, and the television announcers were talking about how the engine in the Alpine, the Renault power plant, is reputed to be down on power to its rivals in the pit lane. And if there was ever a track where a lack of power is going to show up, no matter how much aero you take off the car, I would guess it's Monza. Mm-hmm. And especially, you got to feel for Gasly. I mean, he won this damn thing just a couple of years ago. And now here he is wallowing around at the back because he just doesn't have the poof.
Yeah.
Mm. So just looking through here, guys, the Haas team continue to struggle. I mean, seems like I say this every week now. I just keep thinking that we might some upgrades or something, but man, they just continue to struggle, don't they?
Yeah,
it's too late for upgrades. You've got to concentrate on 24 at this point.
Yeah, that team principals meeting I mentioned, I can't remember if it was Andrea Stella or who. They said basically all of the teams are now working on 2024. Doesn't mean they won't have small upgrades the rest of the way this year, but no, they're fully focused with the cap in mind to next season.
Yeah, I think that's what you have to do. I think at this point, there's just nothing else left here. Hey, what about Liam Lawson, guys?
I was just about to say
he looked really good, didn't he? He was a little quicker in Q2 and finished just behind Yuki. Just seemed like a look. I think it was like a couple of hundredths or something. So,
this is his first run of free practice 1, free practice 2, 3, and then on to qualifying. So the fact that he's within quarter of a second of Yuki is good. And we talked about Sargent, who's had the best part of a season to get up to speed, and Lawson's already there.
Yeah, I was just about to say the same thing. It's like let's look at the rookies here, and
of course, compare their teammates too. I mean, Alex Albon was doing sterling work, and there's no comparison, I don't think, with Tsunoda. So Sargent's got a real shadow to try to climb out from behind. But Lawson continues to do a terrific job.
Well, I just put a story in the doc for this weekend that I still think that Singapore could be doubtful for Ricciardo, which would really give Lawson 3 good, varied Grand Prix under his belt and really make the difference between how he stands and certainly his marketability from there on in. It does change the and obviously now they're saying Perez is confirmed. It just makes it interesting, but Lawson will have hopefully done enough by then to at least put himself in a position to be either the next AlphaTauri driver or maybe be stolen from somebody else.
Yeah, good point. And Helmut Marko said the other day, I think they're even looking past Singapore for Ricciardo. They're saying he may not even be back for Japan, because Suzuka, of course, is a very tough circuit on the drivers. It's really physical, very fast, lots of turns, which we don't see that much of here at Monza. So if Ricciardo's not well on his game, he could do himself some damage trying to come back in time for Suzuka.
Yeah, and I think Qatar's more likely. And I actually think they're probably enjoying if Lawson continues to achieve and learn, then there's no harm, no foul. I mean, it's a freebie all round, really, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, except for Ricciardo, who will be hating.
Well, when you're buried in the points as they are, let's look towards next year, not only next year's car, but next year's drivers. Let's give Lawson a real nose full of Formula One and see how he does. And other teams might consider that too.
Yep. It's going to be interesting, that's for sure. I do worry that the Red Bull stable is somebody's going to open the barn door and they're all going to run away. But there is a lot of talent, and it's tough. And like I said, you almost look at using Red Bull to its nth degree, and then, like I said, potentially somebody like Lawson might spring to be driver at Williams, for example, or Red Bull might say, "Hey, we'll give you our driver on loan."
Hey, speaking of Red Bull, did you see Max on doing the podium interviews? He was just happy as a clam, like this didn't even bother him. I mean, I'm very surprising to see Max that way, but of course the season wrapped up. But like you said, Jonathan, it's just fantastic for Ferrari. But when Ferrari's doing good, we always say it's good for the sport as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and Max knows what he's got in race trim. I mean, we see it time after time. Qualifying's close. We all start to wonder, is this going to be the weekend? And then they get in the race, and Max takes pole by 0.2 of a second and wins by 35 seconds. It's just, the guy's unbelievable. Hey, one thing I wanted to talk about is not who's in Monza, but who isn't. Felipe Massa, who is a contracted ambassador for Formula One, was asked not to come to Monza. Here's an ex-Ferrari driver asked not to come because his lawyers have indicated they're ready to sue over the Crashgate incident in Singapore so many years ago that Massa says is what cost him the 2008 World Championship. What's going to happen?
Why would that extend to him not going to Monza? What would happen to him by going?
Well, I guess they're thinking there'd be a lot of bad feeling, that he'd become the center of attention for all the media.
Okay.
Speaking of which, where's Chris?
Chris tried to join the wrong Zoom that I sent him, so he's going to be with us here in a second. He was actually catching an interview with Piastri.
So. Oh wow.
Cool. Wrong Zoom. That sounds like something I'd do.
Yeah.
Where's everybody?
Well, it's
405 headed east rather than west. Yeah.
Yeah, Jonathan, I sent him the Zoom we're doing right after this about coming to Coda. So anyway, yes. There he is. He's joining us now. I see him still firing up. So yeah. Hey, Chris, how was your first Zoom? Was that a good meeting?
Yeah, really good chat I had there. Really exciting to know what's coming up at Coda soon.
Yeah, isn't it?
Oh, Chris, I'm so sorry, buddy, but how is it out there at Monza? Is the place just a madhouse?
It is a little bit, I will admit. It's it's very hectic, very busy. And as you can imagine, there's a lot of interest and excitement around Ferrari right now. So I parked myself between the two massive red motorhomes here where Fred Vasseur is doing endless interviews. I'm hoping we can tag on to the end of one of them. I don't know whose eye I'm going to be able to catch because, I mean, it's a good problem to have that he's, I'm a long way back in the queue, I'm told. He obviously it's a great day for Ferrari to get pole at their home race. And the noise from the crowd, we get it in the media center. It comes through the windows, and that means we can normally tell just before the timing screens update what the end result of a lap was. And I can tell you that when Leclerc went quickest, that was big noise.
Yeah.
When Verstappen beat him, you could hear a pin drop. It really did just silence everyone so quickly. But I think also because they were just catching a breath, knowing, well, hang on, Carlos is on one here. So, yeah, what a great job from Carlos Sainz today. Under pressure, I'd say, as well.
Yeah.
And a great job all weekend, too. I mean, fastest on Friday afternoon, fastest on Saturday morning, and now fastest in qualifying. Good work.
Hey, I think this was...
I picked up on was... Sorry, I was just going to say, I think what was really impressive with Carlos was the way that he kind of said yesterday, yeah, we can do it, but, it's not a certainty, but why not dream? Let the Tifosi dream. He kind of didn't want to dampen expectations, and that only adds to the pressure then, doesn't it? So, he didn't want to talk it down too much, and, cracking end result.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just such a... Regardless of the result tomorrow, that just Ferrari now go to bed tonight, and so do their fans with a step, a real skip in their step, and like you say, believe anything can happen, and who knows?
Hey, Chris, I have a question. We know the new technical directive about the integrity, shall we say, of aerodynamic pieces on the cars is going to be further tested because it's suspected that some teams are doing things. And in Christian Horner's interview as a team principal, he said something about we've seen a lot of rubbery noses. What's
that all about?
So he's kind of saying that basically the tip of the nose is flexing a little bit. It's kind of drooping down a little. So the whole wing then drops, but it's not. If you would normally the test takes place on the ends of the front wings, so the end plates, because that's where they are furthest from where they're connected to anything. So that's the bit you have to keep strongest, because if you had the weight there, they're likely to droop down. Kind of imagine if you hold your arms out parallel, just completely wide, so you're almost like stood just as wide as you can make yourself with your arms outstretched, and someone then puts weights on your hands, then at that point, your hands might be what droop a little bit, but you're going to be more stable around your shoulders near the middle. Well, it's just like that with the front wing, but then to get the whole front wing a bit lower, if you make the middle bit a little bit bendy, so if you, I guess, point your chest down to the ground a bit, then your whole arms are coming down, aren't they? So it's that kind of concept that he's kind of saying that might be a way to get round the original regulations.
And
Chris, that's one of the best explanations of Formula One technology I've ever heard. Well done.
And Jonathan was acting it out for you, by the way, with his arms. He was.
And so was Bob.
I was too. Yeah, I was trying to imagine. Put a weight around my neck.
Well, if you both do that as well, and then you stand up and run around the room and make a meow sound, you can be an aeroplane. It's the same thing.
You've done this before, haven't you?
Yeah.
All right, guys. Hey, we need to get a quick break in. When we come back, we'll hear from McLaren's Oscar Piastri. You're listening to Speed City F1. Back after this.
Know if that
go ahead, Bob.
If that simulcast with Ricardo and Will Arnett, is that still happening? They were going to do 2 more races, then Ricardo got in the race car, and now he's out of the race car again. So what's going on with that? Anybody know?
I don't know.
They expect him to be back in the car by Austin, so it won't happen with Daniel. But I think they were still looking at whether they could do something else with someone else. They just hadn't nailed down who, because they announced it, committed to it. But I know that it did catch ESPN out because, like everyone, it moved so quickly in the summer. They found out that they wouldn't have Daniel for it anymore when the announcment was made that Daniel was racing. So
So they made other plans. Yeah. Well, we got some guys on this radio show who could step in, I suppose.
Oh, absolutely.
Hey.
Well, no, we'll be broadcasting as well, won't we?
Yeah, that's right. Hey, got some comments on YouTube. Andy P clarifies. He says, to clarify, I'm okay if they want to take away 2 sets of tires, but let the teams handle qualifying the way they choose. Like Jonathan says, it feels like it's unnecessary tinkering. Yeah. Thank you. Hey, welcome, Ray, streaming from Darlington, South Carolina. David Lawrence says, poor Chris, he already has wedding on the brain. David, it was all my fault. I feel like I have wedding on the brain. I've been off all show and sending Chris first I didn't even send it to him, and then I sent him the wrong one. So it's all my fault. You've
had quite a weekend with that, John.
Yes. I
almost forgot to send out the document.
I know. I don't know I had I had the bad weekend everybody else had last weekend. I had this weekend. So yes. Let's see. What do we got, Casey? How much? All right. Let's see.
I'm going to stalk Albon and Russell, but I don't know if I'll get either because it's very busy down here.
All right. I'll do the live read, and then we'll go straight to Piastri, Chris, you think, or not?
Hi, this is Max Verstappen, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
The Speed City post-qualifying show on SiriusXM is brought to you by CrowdStrike. Stop today's most sophisticated cyber attacks at the office, the racetrack, and everywhere in between. Learn more at crowdstrike.com/XM. Hey, Chris Medland out in Monza.
I'm going to jump in, John, because I've got Alex Albon right here, and he's got a long walk down the paddock, which is going to be hectic. Firstly, Alex, I saw on the drive in today a certain George Russell overtake you in your road car on the approach to the entrance, and it looked like you couldn't really respond to it. I mean, what that must have hurt.
It's dirty tactics and completely illegal. I was kind of hoping the police would have seen it and then called him out on it. But as soon as they saw it was George, they didn't care. So I tried to get him back. To be fair to you, he put on a good defense. And to expose George, he drops his car off at the entrance and then makes his trainer park the car for him. I think that shows you the entitlement, and it's just all got to his head a little bit, this Mercedes.
Really?
So,
I agree.
I'm true to my man. I park my car and I walk in like a normal person. But yeah.
Yeah, you did. You walked in with your trainer. I did see that. That was admirable. Sadly, George did beat you on the track today as well, but it looked close. You were right in the fight there for fourth place. Are you satisfied with sixth on the grid for tomorrow?
Yes, weirdly not totally satisfied, only because Q1 and Q2 went so well, and then you kind of, I guess, have a bit of expectation and you want more always when you're up there. So we finished P6. I still think I'm happy with my lap. I felt like it was a good lap. Just fine margins, and George did a good job. I thought we were, after Q1 and Q2, I looked at the Mercs and I thought, well, they're struggling a little bit. We got them covered, but clearly not. I think George must have done a very strong lap in Q3.
Well, what can the target be tomorrow from sixth? Because your cars looked good all weekend. Well, I know this is a circuit you were targeting, but at the same time, you were wary of over-expecting too much after how Zandvoort went and how Spa went. So, yeah, what's the target now, having all this data?
Exactly. We just got to stay true to ourselves. I think at the end of the day, that's Carlos going past, by the way. We've got to do our job. I think in the end of the day, the Ferraris, the Red Bulls, and race pace wise, the Mercs, they're kind of, they're one step ahead of us. We just got to focus and maximize A to B, start to finish, and see if that's good enough for points. I do think it's going to be a race where we're going to be looking behind us a little bit with the Aston and the McLarens. That's going to be our race, and I mean they are a bit quicker than us. We're going to have to try to hold them off, but yeah.
Well, good luck tomorrow. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Speaking of fine margins, Chris, look at this. It was Russell 126.71, Perez 688, Albon 760, and Piastri 785. All of those, that was 4th through 7th, just unbelievably tight.
Tenth of a second.
Yeah, and before we get on to Piastri, because I put that point to him actually, but just to explain for everyone, so I followed George Russell into the circuit this morning in my road car, and it's as you go under the tunnel or through the tunnel under the circuit, and then you go up a hill to where everyone can access the paddock essentially. And it was at that point there was a queue of cars, and Alex was in a car directly ahead of George. It had a Monaco number plate, which I think told George exactly who it was. And George saw an opportunity in this queue when Alex was a bit slow pulling away, and yet overtook him in this queue at quite a decent bit of speed. Their cars react well, so it was a proper little bit of racing that happened. It was. We were trying to work out for a while who it was involved, and George jumped out, as Alex did say he did. He just stopped his car by the exit, got out the driver's seat, and walked into the paddock with a little wave and a celebration to Alex's car that he'd overtaken, and left his trainer to park his own car for him. But Alex, he couldn't defend because he was going somewhere else to the car park. So, I'm glad he gave that. Glad he gave that full comment.
What cars were they?
Both in Mercedes E63s for the parents.
Okay.
So, yeah, a nice pair of cars.
Smart. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Chris. Hey, Chris, you want to set up this Piastri interview you did with him just a few minutes ago?
Yeah, sadly for us, McLaren are much closer to the end of the paddock where the drivers were doing their interviews than Williams. So I didn't get as long as I just got with Alex, but I did grab Oscar just to kind of ask the same question I asked to Alex, actually. It's so tight in there, whether the end result was one that he was fully satisfied with. And I've got Oscar Piastri with me, signing some autographs, trying to fight through a very busy paddock. But Oscar, P7 today, just over a tenth from fourth. How do you look at it? Was that everything, or was there a bit more on the table?
I think that was more or less everything. You know, there's a little bit here and there, but I think every driver can say that. That's probably one of the most used driver excuses ever. So I was pretty happy with that. I think we're about where we expected to be. So no, not too bad today.
And where do you expect to be tomorrow then? Because, yeah, both cars 7th and 9th, so you're kind of the lower end of the points.
Yeah, I think, that's realistically where we're going to be. I'm not expecting a massive change for tomorrow to go forwards. So, yeah, we'll see what we can do and hopefully score some points.
Good luck, thanks.
Thank you.
Well, he's got to be happy. He's 2 tenths ahead of his teammate, Lando Norris.
I was about to say, is it just me that seems to be noticing that Piastri is just going about his business and beating, okay, by 2 tenths, but Norris, no mean feat. He's quietly becoming an equal to Norris in that team, which is really exciting.
Yeah, and he seems like a real no BS kind of guy, which we've heard Zach Brown say.
Sorry to cut everyone off, but I'm muscling in ahead of Channel 4 to speak to Fred Varsha, who is probably a very happy man. I never like to assume your emotions, Fred, but you're on pole position at the Italian Grand Prix. Doesn't get much better than that, does it?
No, it's a great feeling. It's a great feeling for the team, for me, for the partners, for Ferrari, for the Tifosi first. And I really enjoyed the journey. And now that as soon as the quali is done, that we have to be focused on the race, that the most important is tomorrow. But in the other end, it's also a good milestone for the team, I think, in terms of pure performance. And it's a good achievement.
Well, you got both cars in the top 3 as well. Is that a kind of a help if you're going to beat Max Verstappen tomorrow, that you've got both up there at the sharp end?
It's good to have 2 cars on the top 3, and but now we have to see tomorrow that it was a strange Friday yesterday. We didn't do a very long stint. We had a good feeling on the car on the long stint, but it was not sure that it's completely representative.
Well, that's the thing. Red Bull race pace tends to be strong. So is the target a win tomorrow, or is it just maximizing what you've got?
No, we have to get the best from what we have, and we'll see what is the outcome.
Are you dreaming though of a win?
No, I'm not dreaming at all.
Just a Tifosi. Thank you, Fred.
Yeah, that's a pretty consistent comment from Fred Vasseur at the team principals meeting. He was asked about what you can do to get to Red Bull, whatever. He says, you're asking the wrong question. We can't control what Red Bull does. We can't control what Mercedes or McLaren or anybody else do. All we can do is control what we do and what we have. And he really does have a clear-eyed view of what needs to happen, that Ferrari needs to look inward at its weaknesses. And we've been carping about their weaknesses all year now. I think Fred Vasseur is right on that same line of thinking. So we've got to figure out what's wrong, fix that, and then worry about what the guys in the next garage are doing.
Hey, Chris, tell us what we always think of Ferrari and that with their low tolerance, let's say, so short timelines for team principals if they're not performing. How does Frederick Vasseur look, body language and all that? Does it still feel like he's secure in his position?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he brings a very different kind of demeanor to that role. He's very much more forward facing, engaged, active with not only with media, but with fans. And I think that's helping because there's a direct line of communication there that, as you guys have just pointed out, he's consistent with, but it means
and then the world came to an end.
Yeah, I think we lost Chris.
just to the point where he explains what it means.
Yeah. You know what? Let's take advantage of
Yeah.
this. Let's grab a quick break, and when we come back, we'll get the rest of that sentence from Chris Medland. You're just in the Speed City back after these messages. Hey,
Did
Chris,
someone mute me, or did I somehow mute myself?
well, we lost you
You muted
mid-sentence.
yourself.
I don't know. Yeah, you just
Okay. I'll go and stand somewhere still. I was walking, so I'll make
It was a good
sure.
sentence, though, Chris.
What had I said at that point? I can't remember.
Just about Varsha.
yeah. And how Vasseur is perceived among Ferrari.
Yeah.
Especially interesting to me because he's not Italian.
No.
Of course, the last
so-
Frenchman in that role did pretty well.
Good comments on YouTube. He's let's see. David Lawrence says that's why Zach leaped at Piastri. He's living up to the billing. Yeah, no
it
doubt.
is.
Joe Vosher says, I like this era of drivers. I like them screwing with each other in good fun and then going at it on the track. Same with the Indy drivers. Smart, fun guys. Yeah, that is true. And I feel like, it started during the pandemic. Maybe I'm wrong, but.
Well,
I think it's a combination. Go on.
I've been around these guys, or was around these guys for quite a long time. And there's always been a certain amount of camaraderie, I must say. And, pranks and all that kind of stuff. You have to. You can't live this lifestyle with all of its demands and isolate yourself. I mean, you go crazy. You need to be out there, enjoying life and enjoying the fact that you're getting to do something that is the only thing in the world that you want to do, and have some fun with it. We need more Gerhard Bergers out there. He even made Senna laugh.
I mean, let's face it. It is a fraternity of the best, and I think there's got to be a certain level of respect, even with even if you're. All right, here we go.
Yeah.
This is David Hobbs, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
Okay, before we went to break, we said we'd let Chris finish his sentence. And Chris, your thoughts just were about how how the team and everybody at Ferrari feels about Frederick Vasseur.
Yeah, I think it's more kind of the demeanor that he's brought to that role that's very different to what Mattia Binotto had and what former team principals have had, which is much more open, much more forward-facing, communicative with the media, but with fans as well. And it does mean that you hear from Vasseur, you understand his philosophy. As Bob pointed out, he's very consistent with what he says and what he wants and what he believes. And at the very least, what he's going to publicly say. And by having that, then that openness, it means you don't get things like, maybe that tripped up Ferrari in the past a little bit, where maybe an interview was only done in Italian to a local outlet or to Sky Italia, and it's mistranslated slightly, or it's just slightly misunderstood because of the wording or the passion that was involved. And again, then this is a global team. Ferrari have fans all over the world, and that's where the pressure builds from. We see it biggest here at Monza, but it is massively global. So sometimes the messaging wasn't quite so clear coming out of that team. Right now, it is under Fred. He does seem calm. I think he has a good relationship with his drivers, a very good one actually, which he has with a lot of them up and down the grid. So yeah, I actually just going to cut off very quickly. Liam Lawson's walking past me, and I'm going to annoy him live to Johnny Green and co again. But because Liam, 12th on the grid, right alongside your teammate today. What a great job you've done.
Yeah, it was a decent step, obviously from last week and from yesterday as well. We're getting there, just little bits to come still, obviously. Today was really close between everybody. So yeah, that was obviously like tiny little areas make big differences. But with both cars so close to Q3, I think it was possible today.
Well, yeah, it's just over a tenth and a half, I think, between you and Yuki. You're going to line up together on the 6th row, just outside the points. Is that the aim tomorrow? Do you think you can score in just your second race start, or is it more a learning experience again for you tomorrow?
There's going to be so much to still absorb during the race. Obviously, I had a bit of experience in Zandvoort last week, but this is such a different track. Yeah, and with more, probably more dig as well, in a very different way. it's gonna be a challenge. I'll do my best, obviously, but I'd be pretty stoked if we could be fighting for points.
Well, just finally then, how nice was it to have FP1 and FP2?
Definitely makes a big difference. Being able to just chip away and take the time. It's first time for me in any championship that I've had multiple practice sessions like this, and it makes a big difference. So yeah, definitely makes it better.
Well done. Thank you, Lynn. Sorry about that, cutting off my Ferrari point, but I saw him coming and he did a great job today, didn't he? So felt weird.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great story. And what a good head on his shoulders, I mean, he doesn't sound overwrought at all. He's not, he's definitely straight into the game. By the way, a former winner here at Monza in F3.
Yeah, good point.
Indeed. And I think on that day, he led home Yuki Tsunoda in a 1-2. So, good omens, I think, for the team. But I've been so impressed with how he's built up his weekend, because I think it kind of went under the radar that he was chipping away at it and getting a bit closer. But then to pull it out as he did in Q2, when he did his lap, he went 12th. So that's kind of where he sat. But others then went and jumped ahead of Yuki and pushed Yuki down to 11th. And it suddenly showed you how close he really was in terms of what that car will do. So, I think that's an excellent effort. And as we've seen from someone like Logan Sargent today, who's had a quick car and he just didn't get it together in Q2 and then tried to push to find time at the final corner and lost even more. There's such fine margins. So for a rookie in his second race weekend to do that, or in a sense, his first full race weekend, let's look at it that way. It's very strong work.
And Chris, the headline when Ricciardo joined the team was, he's here to, save AlphaTauri's blushes and get them off the bottom and move them forward. And yet, this weekend you look at 11th and 12th for AlphaTauri, regardless who's driving the car. That's a good result.
Yeah, it's a really good one. They did bring quite a few new parts here, which most teams brought something, and they tended to be circuit specific, lower downforce front wings or rear wings and ways of balancing the two. But there was just the odd extra bit, like a brake duct, I think it was, change, and maybe the rear wing, rear view mirror configuration, just to slightly reduce drag again. And I think they just threw a bit more at it because it's a home race for the team. It's easier for them to get the parts here, just drive them up from Faenza a couple of hours and you can get them here. So I think they focused a bit more on this weekend than last. And maybe it's because they felt that it was a race they can do well at. If you think back to Spa, which does have a lot of low downforce needs, that's where Yuki scored points last time out. So I think there was a bit of a target here, and it shows just how close the whole field is. And if you're half a tenth off as a team of everyone else, well, you're still going to end up 19th and 20th. It's that close. You need to get it all together at all times. And I think that's what will make AlphaTauri happiest, is that both drivers clearly got pretty much everything that was in that car to line up alongside each other, right smack bang in the middle of the midfield.
Hey, Chris, we were talking about it before you got on. Lance Stroll. We were saying that Fernando was uncharacteristically down in 10th, but Lance Stroll in 20th?
Yeah, now there's a slight kind of excuse for that, dare I give him it. And it's that if you think of yesterday, he gave up FP1 for Felipe Drugovich, so didn't run an FP1, and then had a fuel pump issue or fuel system issue at the start of FP2, so did no running on Friday at all. So all of Stroll's running happened today. That was everything he had for practice and to get into quali. And as we've just said, it is so tight. The gaps that we've seen between teams that have smooth days is are tiny. And I think he just wasn't comfortable and up to speed. And we have seen times that Stroll can struggle in that sense. There's times he can excel when things are a bit off, whether it's weather or a lack of practice for everyone. But I also think there's times that he can't compensate for it. And today was one of those days.
Yeah, and then everybody had the whole track limits thing hanging over their heads again. I mean, we even saw Max Verstappen lose a lap to track limits. So in those conditions, it would be even tougher, I would think, on a guy like Lance Stroll, to make sure he doesn't cross a line.
And also the alternate tire allocation that we had, so the need to run the hard in Q1, medium Q2, soft in Q3, will have meant that if he wasn't fully confident in getting those tires into the window because he hadn't had the practice on them on Friday, then if you don't switch on the hard tire for your lap, you lose loads of performance. And we saw it more in Hungary, didn't we? It really mixed things up with the Alfa Romeos in the top 10 and things like that. But I think here, most people have got a handle on it roughly, but both Alpines out in Q1 as well. Same sort of issue.
Yeah.
Where it clearly didn't suit them. So yeah, a painful one, but you never know in the sense that the grid is so tight. You could end up just stuck where you're starting because you don't have a big performance advantage over anyone else and you don't go forwards. Or if you can get into a good rhythm, get your strategy right, make a couple of moves early on, things can open up because your car is still competitive enough to move forward and stay there. So yeah, I mean, it's probably one to revisit after tomorrow. Same with Logan Sargent, with where he's starting, because I think disappointing day for him today, but a car that's clearly quick enough to kind of fight in that midfield. And really, I think we're going to have to judge everyone after tomorrow because it really could vary from really impressive result to a bit of a shocker.
Logan Sargent hasn't scored a point yet, but boy, does he need to tomorrow.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think it really matters. I think it's becoming a topic now because if he doesn't do it here, Singapore's going to be a challenge for him. He's never raced there. Suzuka the same. In these cars on those tracks, huge test for rookies. So then that's a couple of races where very unlikely to pick up a point. And then you're into Qatar, which will be new for him as well. Then Austin and the pressure of his home race. And by then you're getting towards, a decision's probably being made on your future if it hasn't been already. So yeah, I think tomorrow he certainly needs a really strong, clean run. Whether he gets a point or not, the minimum he needs is a strong, clean race.
Right.
Yeah, I like the way you put it. It's becoming a topic. I think that's I think that's a pretty good, and in stark contrast, like we said earlier, I get to Liam Lawson right now. So yeah, and you know what? He also doesn't need to be coming into Austin without having a little more success than he's had to this point. Talk about the pressure. I mean, there's been so much discussion about being an American, and maybe that's even why he's there and all of that. And actually, James Vowles said that in an interview on the F1 TV pre-race show. He said something along those lines about American pressure, but anyway, he needs to.
Shameless plug, go and look at racer.com. Chris Medland is the author, and look at what Bobby Epstein has to say about Sargent's impact.
Ah, there we go.
Yeah, it was a very brief answer we got from Bobby, but it does show. Yeah, you want the focus then when we come to Austin to be on Logan's progress, his potential, the fact that he's hopefully getting another year, that sort of thing, not whether he should get one or potentially he's even lost his seat. So yeah, pivotal time in his career right now.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, we are out of time, but tomorrow our coverage continues. Our pre-race show at 8 a.m. Eastern, right here on Channel 81, SiriusXM, ESPN Extra, and then of course the race right here on the same channel, and our post-race show immediately after the race. And we'll have Chris out in Monza live again with his microphone, stalking everybody. And of course, Bob Varsha, Jonathan Green, and myself, John Massengill, all joining you tomorrow. And if you want to find out more about us, go to our website, speedcitybroadcast.com, and we will talk to you tomorrow.
If I get sent the link.